Still in the Western Cape, about 100 Harare households in Khayelitsha have been plunged into darkness after Eskom technicians could not enter the area due to gang activity. Gangsters in the Cape Town settlement are demanding that the power utility pay a protection fee if they wanted to work there. Eskom revealed that criminals were deliberately tampering with their infrastructure and then demanded the community to pay 30 rands for reconnection. Joining us now to share their understanding of the matter, Ndithini, chairperson of the Khayelitsha Development Forum, as well as acting general manager for Eskom Cape Coastal Cluster, Mbulelo Yedwa. Gentlemen, good evening. Good to have you tonight here on In Focus. Mbulelo, let me begin with you. What is your understanding as Eskom as to why your technicians have been pulled out of the repairs that they need to do in Khayelitsha?
Good evening to you, and good evening to Ndithini, and good evening to the viewers. My understanding of the situation is that we were having faulty transformers in that area, and the community of Harare, they have been without supply for almost 5 days. And of course, we deployed our teams to go and deal with the situation. But unfortunately, as they were about to deal with the situation, they were stopped. In fact, they were threatened, to use the right words, by people who were demanding a protection fee of around about 20,000 per month. So this exhaustion fee was demanded from our contractors that were in the area on Friday. So it was a question of either you pay us this 30,000 in the case of the contractors on Friday, or in the case of our technical team, 20,000 a month. Because for us as Eskom, safety of our people comes first, we were faced with no option but to withdraw our services in the area.
Yeah. As far as you know, sorry, let me just come in here. Were you able to determine and work out whether the transmitter was malfunctioning as a result of just general fault, or as a result of it being directly tampered with?
Yes, in this case, it was just a faulty transformer, which we were prepared to go and fix. But we do have challenges, especially when you deal with illegal connections, because they exert necessary pressure on our transformers. So, but in this case, it was genuinely a faulty transformer that we wanted to go and fix so that our people can have power. Yeah. It is unfortunate what happened happened.
And was there a degree of accurate information from your contractors and maybe from the technicians that could possibly be of assistance to police in as far as investigating this matter of extortion?
Yes, but the unfortunate part is that the men who stop our people are unidentified. We don't know them. But the bottom line is that our people were threatened. That we are very sure of. Yeah.
Ndithini, let's bring you in here then as a resident in the area and someone who is familiar, I suppose, with the surroundings and what goes on there. Is this an isolated instance of extortion, or has extortion become quite pervasive and quite permissible, so to speak, in the area of Khayelitsha?
Good evening, Thabo, and good evening to your viewers. The last part, no, it's not permissible. It will never be permissible. But yes, it is very much pervasive, Thabo. Remember, you hop between the mass killings that are intra-gang in nature, fighting over the extortion loot as it relates to the Somali shops. we find now the targeting of essential services such as Eskom, EMS, and other delivery people is some form of expanding territories, which then requires that all of us, or anyone, all of us in the community would dare call themselves leader. We need to come together. And maybe, Thabo, I must take this opportunity and extend a word of serious concern to our brothers, of solidarity to the Eskom workers whose lives were put in danger by these reckless criminals. You see, Thabo, the problem that we still face here. You listen from analyst to analyst as it relates to how do we follow the pattern. The pattern is that something is tilting the situation. They are moving from the Somali shops now, targeting Eskom and the likes and other, meaning that there's an activity that goes out there.
Yeah, yeah.
We still need to genuinely focus, all of us. This is a whole of society type of situation. There are residents of Harare, who, more than 100 of them, who because of that would have gone without electricity, which would have impacted on people's livelihoods, people taking medication and all of that. So people's lives were just put in jeopardy by some few greedy thugs.
Yeah. What are those factors that you say are driving it? Because you're correct. Initially, extortion was thought of to have been maybe something that largely existed in central Cape Town, in the nightlife, in the nightclubs, and maybe in some bars and pubs there. But it seemingly has moved from there to targeting businesses of foreign nationals, but now it is even targeting households and just general South Africans, even SOEs, as we are learning now.
Look, Thabo, that tells you a story of the fluidity of the criminal network or of the criminal activity in Cape Town. Now, what this really does, it needs all of us in community to go out there and encourage our people to come forward with information, because things like extortion, Thabo, are intelligence-driven in the main. You need to create the necessary confidence that people will be able to share this information. That is why we are also inviting my brother, Mr. Yedwa, as well, that let's work more closer together. Because even in this one incident, somebody in Harare would have seen these thugs and know them by name. But that person, because the General Cele just spoke at the Kosatu rally there, that among SAPs, there are those few rotten potatoes. Now, the problem is that how do I know as a member of the public which one is a rotten and which one is a good cop?
Yeah. You just simply going to be frustrated, pull out your technicians, or is there something that you would certainly put in place as far as security being beefed up around your technicians and around the services that you're bringing without just withdrawing? Or have you tried that and maybe you're at the point where you're saying it doesn't work?
Yeah. Before I respond to you, Thabo, I would like to latch on what Ndithini is saying. I fully agree with him. There's absolutely no way that we can defeat a big problem like this on our own. We need to identify areas for collaboration and areas for partnership. What we are doing in Eskom, and I will be in contact, we have been in contact with Ndithini. What we are doing, we are introducing a concept called community co-op. Community co-op simply means that we involve the communities. Exactly what Mr. Tyhido was saying. Somebody in Harare would have known about this. So it's important, apart from security issues, yes, securities and working with SEPs will help us to deal with the situation. But the issue of community involvement is key in this. Thank you.
Yeah. Tyhido, on that question then of community collaboration, why I used the word permissible is that in the case, for example, that you mentioned of the Somali shops, is that once the Somali business owners started paying this protection fee, they report that the killings of Somali shop owners decreased. So they felt a little bit more protected, and so they felt it was better to pay this. Hence, I'm saying that it almost became something that is permissible for businesses to do, and of course, as a direct consequence, we are here now where it's continuing and even now beginning to target South Africans and SOEs.
No, I get that. That is exactly, you see, that part is the most worrying part. Because remember, the majority of spaza shops in the townships currently, as things stand, are almost all of them are run by Somalis, which then means the community, which the majority will be South African, are not in business, therefore cannot pay for protection. Now, those who have money would pay. If we can take that line of thinking, we may find ourselves threading closer to instigation. And then you see, it's very difficult to be in our position in communities. We will try and manage things and also use language that seeks to avoid at all costs to plunging the community into. There's no better discussion on this matter without one being leaning or threading closer to being xenophobic. Because you look at who are the actors and what is their interest and against whom. So these kinds of conversations, they themselves end up being something else than what we are discussing. Which is why sometimes you find that sometimes to be evasive in your questions sometimes, because there are certain things that are very sensitive in their nature. If you raise them as they manifest, you may end up saying something you don't want to say on this public platform.
So a broader study was done on Central Cape Town, but a more pointed study was done on Khayelitsha itself. When you speak of actors, two particular actors were identified as prominent in Khayelitsha, being the Boko Haram gang and the Gupta gang, who are fighting for turf and territorial, one being particularly strong and one being kind of fighting for territory. So the police are aware of this, and a steering committee, I believe, was announced by the minister, if not in March 2021, maybe a little bit later on, to deal and crack down with extortion. Has it borne any fruit? Are there any results that are coming out of that?
Look, Thabo, we are encouraged. All I can say, we are encouraged by some of the arrests that police from time to time they are making. What we should all be focusing on, you see, there is this very stubborn relationship between the national government, provincial government, and the city of Cape Town in the case of Khayelitsha. There is a stubborn relationship that you do not get. And if you listen to statements made by these three levels of government about the same exact thing, you find them they are in poles away from each other. That's seriously a problem, and that is at the expense of the people, such as the people in Harare.
Yeah. From the Eskom point of view, then, Tyhido, at this particular point, what have you put on the table? I suppose you've put your foot down to say we will not come back there unless the safety of our employees is guaranteed. Are you getting those guarantees?
Oh, yes. As we speak, our teams are on the ground. The community engagements and meetings with the community leaders and councillors helped a great deal. About 20 or 30 minutes ago, I had a conversation with our technical teams. They are on the ground. The police have come to the party. The community itself has come to the party, the community leaders. So we are busy restoring those faults, and hopefully we should be able to restore supply. And because we feel for our people to be without supply for 5 days, it's unacceptable. So I'm happy to announce that we've been working with the community, we've been working with the SEPs, and the work is happening on the ground.
No, that is good news, a piece of good news. At least something is advancing on that score. However, then, Tyhido, this has got to be a sustainable kind of arrangement in place. And I know you are saying there needs to be more collaborative work between yourself, Eskom, and the police. But there also needs to be some more community work to be done, maybe by yourselves, but even by the police. Because one of the issues that are coming up is the failure by police to detect, failure by police to properly investigate these cases of extortion. And part of that is because they lack information, because communities are refusing to report, or shall I say, are reluctant to report because of a lack of trust in the police themselves. How do we solve that? How do we solve that better?
Thabo, my brother, this needs a balance. And I think I must, from this point, that we must really drop our head off and salute Councillor of Ward 98, Councillor Anele Kapuza in that area of Harare, as well as our KDF local structure, the Ward Development Forum, for the interventions they've made to make sure that Eskom is back in Harare again. What we need to have, Thabo, number one is to resource the neighborhood watches who patrols the street, and resource the community policing forums that are found in our areas as a second point. A third point, leaders, community leaders themselves. You cannot have a community leader who says, I know of corruption, yet you do not report to the police. If you are scared as a community leader yourself, how are the people that you claim to be leading are going to be able to have confidence and report? Yes, Thabo, there is a semblance of reluctance, because the community stay there. When they see a police officer or a police van going to a suspect or to a suspected extortionist house or standing with that person is surely going to be reluctant to report. What we need to do, we need to stop community leaders from going around and saying they know things about corruption, but only available to discuss those on WhatsApp groups, not being able to man up and stand up and say, I know that Ndithini is involved with corruption or is with extortion. Report it, at least at the level of a community leader, so that you inspire hope from the people that you claim to be leading. The problem you have now, Thabo, is a situation where you are not even sure whether some of our leaders themselves are scared or already having been captured by the other side.
Yes. That's precisely it. I know you might not want to go deep into that, but I wanted to ask you exactly that question. How deep are these networks of extortion, socially, politically, economically, and otherwise? How far do they extend, and therefore making the extortion rackets reinforced a little bit?
The thing here is that because most of these community structures we lead are committed or are elected by popular support, you find sometimes that some of us weaponizes the very information we have, weaponizes that against each other just to make sure that I get favored over Mr. Yedwa. These types of pettiness that are happening at community level. Even community leadership itself requires intensive capacitation to be able to handle intelligence, so that when people share something with you, you don't just go to a shebeen and get excited and just divulge because you put people's lives at risk. You don't just jump into a WhatsApp group and say, I know corruption, and not say who does it and how it manifests.
Indeed. Gentlemen, let's leave it there for tonight. I appreciate your time, and thank you very much for coming on, helping us in this conversation tonight. That is Mbulelo Yedwa, Eskom Cape Coastal Cluster Acting General Manager, as well as Ndithini Khayelitsha Development Forum chairperson. Looks like